Hello, this is One Prince. I'm your host for this episode of Able Pathways. To join in on the conversation, please visit the Able Pathways channel on Little Arena. The address is www.littlearena.com/Able Pathways. There you can chat with a community of hosts, guests, and listeners. Listen to or download episodes. Suggest ideas or topics you would like to hear about. Let us know what you think. Or find our blog and video blog posts and our newest shows.
You are on the road to independence. Able Pathways is here to help you navigate the journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Able Pathways. We have Andy Arias on the line with us, and I would like to say welcome to the airways of Able Pathways.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Could you start off just by introducing yourself to the audience, and then we can start to talk about your path to independence and a few of the projects you're working on out in Southern California?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. My name is Andy Arias. I'm an advocate that works with youth in Orange County, but I'm also an actor in Los Angeles. So I'm trying to combine and marry the two as well as possible, because I believe advocacy can extend further just beyond working with individuals. I think by working in television and film, you are advocating by just bringing visibility to persons with disabilities.
Okay, and what disability do you have, and did you grow up in the Southern California area?
Yeah, I have cerebral palsy, and I grew up all over Southern California, but mostly in Oxnard and Ventura County, and I've lived in Los Angeles County for almost 10 years now.
Cool. So, my first question is, how did you get into acting, and was it part of your advocacy, or was it separate than that?
Well, it really started out separately. I started out modeling before I started any kind of advocacy work and awareness work. I used to just take photos of my face and my shoulders for different magazines and campaigns, and then I decided to get into acting because that was also a passion of mine. And it only became later that I realized that I could have a stronger voice for persons with disabilities, especially persons with diverse backgrounds like myself. I happen to be Latin, and I happen to be part of the LGBT community as well. So I felt that it was my duty to create a bigger voice for all those different parts of myself, for persons with disabilities.
I mean, I am in the same boat because it's up to us to educate the troops, and we believe everything we believe, and they have found that being disabled takes you all over the spectrum, and it's just an interesting path. But we all want the same thing, and that was acceptance.
Right. I truly, truly believe that. And beyond acceptance is equality and dignity and respect. And we have to, I believe we have to manifest those things and create those things through the pathways that you're speaking of. Like I think a lot of us with disabilities have to work twice as hard and have twice as loud of a voice to be able to be heard and to be able to have an equal say in the quality of life of ourselves, of course, but then the quality of life of others as well.
Yes, and it's up to us to show it. Like, right. I will give you a perfect example. I was curious if an actor such as yourself was ever approached to maybe play the wheelchair part in the Glee series.
That's very interesting. Glee's a very interesting show, and I do know some people with disabilities that were asked to audition for that part, but it wasn't completely extended to all of us.
Okay.
And I believe it's because where they wanted to take the character of Artie. The way I feel about that is different. I believe that, a disabled actor deserves the opportunity to portray themselves on television, but by the other token, if a ambulatory actor has the skills to play a disabled person, then there shouldn't be any reason they shouldn't. I just believe that the disabled actor should have the opportunity to roll in the door and knock their socks off, the casting directors and the producers, because in Los Angeles there are many wonderful, very talented actors that I feel might not get the opportunity because producers and directors and casting feel that casting a person with a disability might be a liability, but I don't believe that that's the case.
I mean, I hate to bring up Glee, but that's one of the most favorite parts to talk about, and you put an interesting different view on that. And if they considered disabled actors, then I would have to think that the guy who won Artie probably did the best.
Yeah, I think that he had some skills that they were looking for that maybe some other person didn't have. Like, I can carry a tune, but I'm no Madonna, and I'm no, I don't have great vocals, but it doesn't mean I don't have the acting chops to play a role like that. And I see me playing a role like that in the future. So I think in the entertainment industry, we as disabled actors have to create our own pathways, because those of us who've come before, like Jerry Jewell is a very good friend of mine, and she's created pathways for several of us to be the voice of the future. So I commend her for that effort. But I think, it wasn't without climbing a big hill to get to that point. So I think a lot of us still have the work cut out for us to get to where we need to be.
I mean, I have to agree completely with you because we have to know the hills that Jerry has climbed. Because if we cannot climb them too, then all that work she's done has been in vain for our community.
Correct. I completely agree with you. I mean, I really think that, you know, nothing is worth having if the path to get there hasn't been without its challenges. And I really believe that because my fellow actors and I have worked so diligently on creating a voice and a space for the disabled actor, that when our day comes, it's going to be a very fulfilling time for all of us.
Because, like I said, unfortunately with our politics the way it are, the disabled are now just slowly getting the rights they deserve with the passage of IDEA and ADA. It truly took this long to educate our population so we can start to take the next steps.
Right. I think we have to be the examples that we want to see in the world as disabled persons. I'm definitely not what media or, you know, the public would consider helpless or vulnerable or, you know, or fragile by any means of the word. And, you know, and I think that the American public still has that view of a disabled person not being this dynamic, outspoken, you know, radical person. So I knew coming into this industry that it would definitely be an uphill climb for me because I'm not a safe choice. I'm not the typical disabled view. So casting directors and people in the public sometimes don't know what to make of me, but I figured that what I tell my students that I work with is be yourself, be who you are, and know who you are, and accept that. Before anybody else will accept you, you have to accept yourself.
Okay, and now that's perfect segue. How do you work with students? What are you helping them with?
I developed a youth program I work for the Independent Living Center of Orange County, and I developed a youth program for that center that focuses around vocational services, which means job placement, and youth transition, which means them living independently and advocating for themselves for their direct needs and services.
Okay, is that part of the bullying initiative or is that something separate?
That's part of my day job. That's part of my me being an advocate for the Independent Living Center of Orange County.
Okay, and how long have you been with the Independent Living Center of Orange County?
I've been there for about a little over a year now.
Okay. And are they helping people obtain independence? Because I know here in Illinois, our center movement is a bit suspect.
Can you repeat that, please?
Now, are they truly helping the independent living? Because I know in Illinois, the censors are a bit in question.
Oh, I'm trying to differentiate your question. No, I think it's very legitimate because what I do is empowering youth, making them hear their own voices, because for so long the services that we have received, yes, they are necessary, but the environment that we live in dictates what services a disabled person might need, instead of asking them, what would you like?
Yes.
And so that's where I come in with youth and say, everything in your life is a choice. Everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you want is up to you. But if you don't ask for those things, they won't be given to you. And if you don't work for those things, they will not be given to you.
And I think you're absolutely correct. And it's up to people like yourself and people that I want to promote through these podcasts to be an extremely positive role model to these people.
Well, thank you very much. I commend you for all the work that you do. It's really amazing.
I mean, like you were saying, if someone doesn't do it, who will? What?
Correct.
And I have also found that if we don't take control of the message, the traditional media will make us all out to be super quips or sob stories and never truly get to who we are and how to make the change.
You are correct. I really think that the media, like I was saying, has a very interesting view on what being disabled is, and that view is like overcoming a miracle or obstacles. But for me, for growing up with cerebral palsy, it's who I am. It's part of my identity. I grew up this way. I made choices in my life to get to where I am, and I don't consider myself anything extraordinary. I just know that I have a message to share, and it's up to me to share that message because nobody else in my community is doing it for the specific demographic that I represent.
And I think you're absolutely correct. But being someone disabled, and I'm guilty of the question I'm about to ask, did you find that during your 20s you tried to run from your disability and you tried to lead truly normal, but you found the strength that you're actually disabled and you begin to take pride in it?
You know, I have to be completely honest, and when I was young, I did not have a self-respect over my disability, and it was because I didn't have positive examples of what it was to be disabled. And I have a little thing that I said to someone when I was younger, because I didn't know any better, and I looked out a car window one day and I said, you know, am I going to be homeless too when I get older? Because the only people that I ever saw with a disability were homeless people.
Oh.
And I was and I was a little kid when I said this. It wasn't until I started acting and modeling that I decided to have some kind of, I wouldn't call it pride in my disability, but pride in who I am in general. I don't really think of my disability on a daily basis until somebody looks at me and says, "Oh my God, you're in a wheelchair." And then I look down at my chair and say, "Oh my God, you're right. Wow." I mean, yeah.
I mean, because in talking with people, you find that people who are disabled seem to go through a disassociation period because they think that's part of being independent, but you soon realize you're not truly normal and you have these questions of association.
Right. I mean, I had to deal with a double-edged sword. I mean, I had to deal with coming out of the closet and also being a person with a disability. So for me, it was kind of one of those things where, like, could I pick and choose? And of course, we both know that neither of them were a choice. But I just was like, really? Both of these? Thanks. So I really had to come to terms with my disability first before I could come to terms with my sexuality as well. So I think that kind of gave me a fast track to accepting my disability and really focusing on my ability versus the disability.
I have to ask, if you don't mind, I tend to be somewhat jealous and almost resentful of the gay and lesbian community, not because of what they stand for, but because I see they were in the same spot we were about 20 years ago, and it seems that their movement has grown leaps and bounds, and our movement has just pretty much stayed in place. How do you see that?
Well, I think first of all, we need to get the proper amounts of support, but it starts with us, and it starts with our message, and it starts with what we're asking. You know, working as an advocate and working as an actor, I see lots of different sides of the disabled community, and as far as the needs being met for the disabled, you know, the minimal needs are being met, yes, but we keep asking the same question. And so our questions and our needs have not changed for the last 40 years. And we keep asking the same questions and doing the same actions to get the same results. So I think that at least the way I approach my advocacy, I like to flip it around on itself, because I don't really think the way we've been doing it before has been very effective. And I think by bringing in people with a, how do I say this diplomatically, with a new perspective to fight for persons with disabilities, gives it a better chance of propelling itself into the future. Because I'm not fighting for, you know, the old benefits of years past of, you know, securing the social safety net. Yes, I'm fighting for those services, but I'm also fighting for the disabled to have choices, the choice to work, the choice to live independently, the choice to be whatever the hell we want to be,
Yes.
regardless of who we are, what our disability is, and what we look like. You know,
I mean, we all need that safety net, but we need to figure out how to get some of us out the safety net and contributing to society as a whole.
And I completely agree. The social safety net is there as a backup and support. And what I try to encourage the people who are taking away the social safety net, if you take that away, you're not making us independent at all. You're actually making us more dependent on society than you already believe that we are.
Yes.
I believe the social safety net can be used as a stepping stone for independence, and that's why I believe keeping it secure and tight where it is and propelling it further is important. But not to rely on it completely, but only use it as a stepping stone for progression.
Yes, and I have to agree with you completely, but I think the laws make that difficult. But that's another conversation. Could you tell us more about your acting, because we have about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I'm going to end on the positive note.
Well, you asked me something you want to know. I mean, I do a lot of stand-up comedy, and I'm one of the only stand-up comics with a disability, also that is part of the LGBT community, so that is a niche that I feel needs to be filled, and I don't mind filling it for the time being. So I do a lot of stand-up comedy around Los Angeles and Orange County and Long Beach. So I enjoy that.
Because I know we are good friends with the Comedians with Disabilities Act out of San Francisco, Sacramento, and Nina G.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. I've actually met a bunch of disabled comics, and we all, the thing is, we all bring something very interesting to the table, and not one of us is politically correct when we get on stage. It's kind of like that's. Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like politically correctness kind of handcuffs us. So I exactly know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, my comedy is all about taking back the words that people use to describe us and actually using those words to empower myself. And so if I use those words on stage, it only makes me feel better about who I am, and it doesn't take away my power as an individual with a disability.
Now, by us using those words, we are taking their power away and giving it to us.
Correct.
Because I know back in college, I competed on the speech team, and one of our speeches was on the queer nation, and the gays at the time were calling themselves the queer nation just because of what you said. By them embracing that word, they were taking the power back.
Right. Like my email, my personal email that I use for entertainment is andythegimp@yahoo.com. And people would always say to me, why do you use that word? And I say, well, because it's my word, and I can use it however I want to use it. And for the longest time, people were looking at me like I was cuckoo because I used to use that word, and I said, it's a word that makes me feel comfortable with who I am, and it doesn't have a negative connotation to me. It might to some other people, but not to myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And did I see that you appeared in the movie that Tom Hanks starred in?
Yes, I actually was. I actually had a small part in Larry Crowne, and I got to share the screen with Mr. Hanks for a week. And he's a very gracious director and just a wonderful person. He really is giving to his actors, and it was just a very good experience. And they were very accommodating to my needs as a person with a disability. But one of the greatest things about being on set with that crew is they never treated me like I had a disability. That role wasn't meant for somebody with a disability. Most of my roles that I've auditioned for haven't been specified for persons with disabilities, because there's not that many out there, as we know. So I would go to auditions if they were within my age range and my demographic, and just say, let me read this part, and if you like me, you'll cast me for that reason, and not because I'm in a wheelchair or I'm not in a wheelchair. So that's how I got that part.
So hopefully we'll see you on the big stage again with Tom Hanks or someone else, because stuff like that only helps all of us, and especially when the role doesn't call for a person with a disability. When it's filled in, it helps a lot.
Thank you. Yes, I hope to be acting for many, many years, and I know having a disability is a special skill set, and it's an ability instead of a disability, but I would like to be cast in roles beyond just the chair and beyond my disability, and I think I've been lucky enough to have had those opportunities thus far.
Cool. I want to say thank you very much, and I'm about to end the show, but just stay online for a few more seconds afterwards, and I would like to give you the last word, Andy, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, and I'll be right here.
And I will talk to everybody next time on Able Pathways. Thank you very much.